Hey guys, so first off, you might notice that we actually recently moved. My wife and I managed to start our last place, moved to this much bigger home. It's absolutely fantastic. But anyways, aside from the personal story, Rage of the Abyss format is right around the corner. And I'm going to be honest with you, with branded Despia, I think it's going to be pretty rough, right? You have something like Fuwalos, we're going to give them like +6. Everyone's going to be running Ash if they weren't already doing so. And on top of that, there's also Dominus Impulse, which also stops branded fusion, and you have it's just not able to play through like thrust or anything because it's a trap. So you know what, while I'm not a fan of playing crossout, I thought maybe I'd try it out for now for this new format and just to see how we can survive. But yeah, I had the ROTA premiere event. I actually finished top 8 as well, and also pulled a Fuwalos, which kind of comes in handy for the crossout target. But yeah, let's just get into the profile. Alright, so as usual, we're going to start off with the 3 Albaz, 3 Aluber, 1 Tragedy, double Quem, double Cartesia. All of this is pretty standard, except for maybe this. Most people, I think a lot of people like to run at 3. I like to run at 2. It always kind of ends up coming back at least once. The double Merc, I like it because I'm still playing Allure. I'm just trying to make sure the consistency is there. And I just like having to like expend 1 for Gold Sark, for example. Or let's say like a Serenir Banish, and then you still have another 1 for the Monster Negate. Just to make sure your Gaming Puppet goes live. Kit is quite important nowadays. You do only have 1 brand fusion. Realistically, if you resolve it the first time, you might be in a pretty good position. But it's good for the grind game. Bestials, Lobelian, and Serenir. I wanted to play Magnemite. I usually do. I just try to make it a little bit smaller. It's still a 55 card list, unfortunately. So maybe you might, at that point, maybe you might as well just play Magnemite. But you know what? I'll think about that later. Maximus, because I am still playing the Deer Servant. Because this deck, you only have 1 brand infusion. I still really like running the Deer as like a Walmart version of brand infusion. And then the Gimmick Puppet, of course. Nothing too much to say there. I wish they banned Sanctifier and allowed us to have brand infusion. Speaking of, we only have 1 of that, of course, the triple branded opening. The 1 red, I was playing double red when I was playing grass. I decided to cut grass from this one, even though it is still a large list, only because, again, I'm trying not to cross that way, and I think it would feel bad when you hard open the cross out, and let's say you have the grass. Obviously, you're going to kind of want to start with the grass because A, bait out Ash, but B, you want to make sure you mill as much as you can, and on top of that, if you kind of mill like your crossout targets, that's going to feel really bad. Branded white. So the funny thing nowadays is that, when you kind of end up dumping all your Albazes, like you never wanted to do that before because you want to make sure brand infusion is continuously live. Nowadays, you only have 1 brand infusion anyway, so even if you do dump all your Albazes, at least you still have this to kind of make some fusion plays. The 1 lost. I'm playing 2 High Spirits. I know a lot of people like to play 3. I just find it's a very specific 2-card combo that I decided, I'm fine with it too. If you play 3, you might want to max out on more Bestials like Shadow Dragon, things like that. The Dragons are the best ones. Funnily enough, we're going to get to it, but Fuwalos is actually a winged beast. So even if you hard open the one that at least that I'm playing, you can use High Spirits, send the Rinbrum, and then kind of perhaps start your plays. The double Nadir, it's good. I would say, obviously going first. Because of Shifter, that's when it becomes really dead. This also helps you sometimes play through Droll as well, because you can add from Grave as well, so that's kind of nice bonus. Fusion, Deployment, just all the consistency cards, Gold Sark, Foolish. I really like playing Allure, because we can also potentially draw into like Thrust, Crossout, maybe even Ash for the whatever Mulcharmy that they might drop on us once you start using like your brand fusion plays. I still like Super Poly. I think this is especially good when this deck can of course tend to brick sometimes, and having this can potentially save you, especially also on the Shifter Tenpai. This might be the only thing that can save you. And now the whole playing through a hand trap thing, call by. The 3 Thrust, I was originally thinking of maybe cutting it to 2 because of Impulse is a trap, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video. Nonetheless, but you're at least going to expect Flawless for sure. Impulse maybe not entirely from everyone, just because you are locked out of something like Light, for example. That might be detrimental for depending on the deck that they're playing. And then also the crossouts, and then the crossout targets would be like, I'm actually playing so double Ash, the 1 Imperm, and the 1 Fuwalo. So essentially the way I see it is, so of course Imperm is also very deadly. The double Ash, it's a big list as I mentioned, 55. So I'm not actually playing 2 just in the terms of like, I'm not expecting to draw this like going second, for example, as consistently. But the way I see it is more so that essentially it provides, because this also stops opponent's Fuwalos. So you have essentially like 5 cards here to stop Fuwalos, and that's just kind of how I see it, as like a grouping, not like Ash specifically. And then just like the Imperm again, it can be really deadly, and that's why I decided to cut the Eclipse, even though I like that for the sake of dodging Imperm. And then the Fuwalos, as I mentioned, it is a wing beast. You can use High Spirits for it. I was I want to play 3 potentially. I want to at least try it. A couple reasons. One, obviously, well, I'm not going to pay YCS Niagara pre-hype prices. I would wait until after the event, and I would encourage you to do the same if you're not going to play at that event anyways. But the problem is, I just can't find a way to get this deck list to be kind of smaller. Like, I just find it or not, it doesn't have to be, but I like to play it at 55-ish or 50 plus at least, because I want to now max out on a lot of consistency cards because of Branded Fusion 1. So, you know, I don't think it's actually that reliable to be able to draw any of the hand traps, like specific hand trap that you want to draw, and that's my hesitancy of playing 3 of this. If you don't want to pay for this, obviously, super understandable. You know, you wouldn't even bother, and you just have to accept getting hit with Fuwalos and, you know, maybe just commit to it, let them draw like 6, but hopefully you can still pull the gimmick lock. So, you know, these are things that are just still in exploration phase. Obviously, the ROTA format has not actually happened yet, so I wouldn't really know until that actually happens. But you know what, I decided, as much as I hate crossout, I wanted to at least try it because it's going to be a very hard battle for us. And then the one, Retribution and Diffusion Duplication. Moving on to the extra. This one has definitely not changed at all. But I can't talk about what I could consider. Double Albion, Rebellion, Mirror Jade, really nothing changed. Titaniclat, Sanctifier, Rinbrum, I mentioned about the High Spirits, and Fuwalos there. One Granule, always just been used to it. As much as I would want to play to, just no room. Masquerade, this is not for the really burn effect, it's more so just having a Despia and Fusion monster. I think is very important, just with like Brand and Red, just dodging things, and Cartesia, Fusion allowing you to have an extra play, so you can play Quartus if you want. This one's good. I was almost considering like maybe going back to Dragoon again, and I would have to unfortunately replace this with Dragoon, I think, because there's just no other room if you're playing Super Poly. But for now, I really like this. I think where this came really at the ROTA premiere, like for example, I would use like Brandon White. This was when I was playing Grass. It just happened to work out that way. But just being able to make this and then like popping like the opponent's Rivalry, which destroys this deck, was really nice. And then the Super Poly targets, I would say they really all come up. This is also for Nadir Servant. Sending this to get the Maximus, you get the extra draw off that, and also against Tenpai, Super Poly. This is for like Yubel, and this is for usually most other things. And finally, to the side deck, we have Dark Ruler, Double Droplets. I think it's really hard to go through Yubel board. This one I like to side in when I'm blindsiding, essentially, because the opponent scoops a lot when you play Branded, because you gimmick lock them, and this is kind of versatile. Feather Duster, I'm playing Triple Cyclone. I think there's a lot of like White Forest, Runic. Also, I think Stun you're going to see a lot as well, especially because people probably won't want to play like Fuwalos and things like that. This is kind of a flex spot. You don't have to play this, obviously, but I did notice Pearly has some tops so far this format, and this deck just cannot out-towers. I thought I'd just have this as a backup. Board Wipes, my favorite board wipe of all time is the Evenly Match. I decided to play the D-Berry instead of the Magic Deflector that I usually played, especially because I'm playing Crossout. So if you're playing against something like Labyrinth, which they did have multiple YCS tops, so I think they are still definitely a threat. At least you know for sure they're playing it, and you can still cross out for this. I don't have the Dominus Impulse yet, but I figured maybe I would play that as well going first, because A, it provides as a thrust target as well if you already, let's say, like did your old Branded Fusion line, or let's say you have like Gimmick Pop, or maybe you even hard open the Fusion Duplication. And the Impulse, as long as you set it, you're not locked out of like the whatever attributes, and then it's just also a cross-out target as well, which is going to be very hard to stop without it, because obviously you're not going to get Thrust Live because it's a trap. So I think that is something I want to try once I get my hand on it before YCS Niagara. Alright guys, so that was it for the deck profile for the upcoming ROTA format. I will still consider, tweaking things around before YCS Niagara, which I hope to see a lot of you there as well. Definitely let me know how you're going to shift your list for Branded. It's definitely going to be a rough uphill battle, I think, post next format. But you know what? Also try my best as well. But anyways, big thanks to all of you for watching. Huge thanks to my patrons and sponsors as always for the continued support. Big thanks to my wife for filming this, and well, take care guys.